Well, welcome to another Wild One Home Truths podcast, where today we're talking about some significant changes that are coming up in the rental market, changes that have implications for both tenants and for landlords. And we're joined today by Iain Jarvis and Alex Copley from Stephensons. Guys, you've not been on one of these podcasts before, so do you just want to say a little bit about who you are and what you do at Stephensons? Do you want to go first, Iain?
So I am an associate partner at Stephensons and I head up the residential lettings side of the business.
And Alex, what do you spend your days doing?
Yeah, so I'm the lettings negotiator. I've been in the industry about 4 years now. I deal with the sort of tenancy life cycle from inception through to moving into the property, so dealing with landlords and tenants sort of day to day.
So the changes that are coming in, these are big changes that are happening from the 1st of May this year, aren't they? Which we were just talking about before we actually started the discussion today about the fact that there's not been a great deal in the media or in newspapers or whatever about this. What is it that's actually happening on the 1st of May?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. They've I don't know whether actively kept it out of the media, but there certainly hasn't been much information out there. And I've spoken to numerous landlords and tenants who really have no idea about what's coming in. I would say the major changes, tenancies are changing. At the moment we're in a assured short hold tenancy, which effectively means when the tenant first moves in, they're in for 6 months or 12 months, and that's a fixed term, and then after that they would go onto a periodic contract. So your landlords, they know that you're going to get rent for 6 months or 12 months before these tenants can move on. From the 1st of May, those tenancies are all going to become periodic. So effectively that means a tenant could move in 1 month and then give their notice and move out a few months later. So there's no kind of guarantee that these tenants are going to stay for kind of a serious period of time. In reality, I think everyone probably around here would think that if you're moving in, you're moving all your furniture in, you've got your removal men, and you're getting unpacked and settled in that house, are you going to then move out 2 months later? I'm not sure you are, but it just gives tenants a bit more freedom, really. And
but what do landlords want in these situations? Do they want long-term? They presumably want long-term tenants who are going to just pay their rent. Is that what they want?
Exactly that. Your ideal tenant is going to stay for a long period of time, look after the property, and pay their rent every month, and that's all most landlords want, to be honest. So that sort of security for landlords is disappearing a little bit. But I do think, like I say, in reality, most tenants aren't going to move on every few months because, I mean, we've all moved house. It's a bit of a pain, to be honest, isn't it? So, yeah, I mean, that's one of the major changes. Another one, again, is the way landlords would ask tenants to leave, so the eviction process. There's this media phrase out there at the moment about the no-fault eviction, so they're called Section 21s, where you don't have to give a reason to ask a tenant to leave. You just have to serve them with a Section 21 and kind of tell them which date you would like them to leave by. It's got to be at least 2 months. That whole process is changing for landlords and tenants. Now there will have to be reasons. There's a number of reasons you can give, and to be frank, I'd direct any landlords or tenants towards the government website to have a read of them, because we'd be here all day if I was listing the ins and outs of them, to be honest.
So Section 21, as it stands at the moment, yeah. this is the way that you can get rid of a troublesome tenant.
Yeah. I
mean, I'm interested on the point that you made about the no fault eviction. I mean, I'm working in the media, but and I don't really know what that means. But you said there's that's the angle that the media have taken on that sometimes. Is that is there any such thing as a no fault eviction?
I mean, I would say I've been a landlord myself for over a decade, and I've been running this department at Stephensons for 4 years. I don't think I've ever served a Section 21 for no reason. It's just it's the most straightforward way, because you don't technically have to give a reason on the notice, but landlords serve them for tenants not paying rents, tenants damaging properties, tenants breaching contracts. All those sorts of reasons will still exist after the 1st of May. It's just the notice periods will change, and the criteria that the tenants will have to fit will change. Quick example, if you are to serve notice for a tenant not paying rent, they would have to have not paid rent for 4 months before you can serve that notice. With a Section 21, as I said, you don't have to give a reason, so they miss a month, or they stop paying for a couple of weeks, or the landlord gets an inkling they've lost their job or something. They haven't even technically missed a rent payment, but the landlord's worried that they will stop paying rent. They could serve notice on them, which from the 1st of May you won't be able to do that.
So does it include Alex, does it include a whole list of new regulations and things that landlords need to worry about, I suppose?
I wouldn't say they'd need to worry about it, because as Iain said, obviously the reasons that people would have evicted tenants in the first place, most of them can still apply. It just needs to be done in a different way. So Section 8 still exists, and that is, you could breach of contract, rent arrears, all of those kind of things you can still evict people for. It just has to go through a court process, or you've got to basically prove it more, which you don't have to with a standard Section 21.
Is it making it more complicated for landlords?
I would say it definitely makes it a little bit more difficult. They do obviously have to prove the reasons why, and they have to be legitimate reasons. But as long as those reasons are legitimate, then they still shouldn't have any problem with evicting someone if they really needed to.
So, well, I mean, I'm just interested with this really, what are the most common reasons why, you've mentioned some of them anyway, but what would you say is the most common reason for wanting somebody out? Is it always just damage to the property, or not paying the rent, I suppose, is the most obvious one?
Yeah, I mean, from kind of a breach of contract point of view, it would be property damage or unpaid rent, really. But you've got landlords selling, for example, or landlords, we deal with a number of landlords who move abroad for work for a few years, and it's actually their home, and they want it rented out because they don't want to sell it, and so they're coming back and wanting to move back in. So selling or moving back in are also extremely common reasons. They're probably the reasons where you might find landlords try, if they just want their property back because they want it back, they want to get it refurbished, or they want to tidy up and put the rent up. Those are probably the reasons that might potentially be used in that way, but there is some regulations coming in terms of how soon you could re-let it if you decided to serve notice for selling the property. Just to get the tenant out, you wouldn't then be able to re-let it for 12 months effectively, so it would sit empty. So the government have put these kind of extra bits of legislation in place to stop landlords just being able to get them back through kind of loopholes, I suppose would be the way of putting it.
Is this because Alex, is this because there's a kind of a theory that landlords are bad people, a lot of them? Am I being silly saying something like that? What I'm trying to get at here, I think, is what's the logic behind the government bringing this kind of legislation in the first place? Is it because they genuinely want to protect tenants, or is this anything that the industry itself has been calling for?
I think it is to give tenants more security. I think tenants probably do worry that they could just get served a Section 21 at sort of any given time and things like that, so it gives them more security, and I do think it does favour the tenants more.
There's parts of it definitely that are good. I think some of it is media led, to be frank. The bad landlords and the bad tenants are the ones that make the news. You'll see TV programmes out there about rogue landlords or terrible tenants.
Yeah, there's nothing good in a TV show about a good landlord, is it? That's the problem. Yeah.
But that doesn't make good media, does it? So, but in reality, your bad landlords and your bad tenants are minimal. I always say this when I'm out speaking to new landlords, that I get a kind of list of our arrears, so our bad debtors, effectively the tenants that aren't paying rent. Every 3 times a week I get one, and we look after 300 odd properties, and that arrears list has 2 or 3 names on it every couple of days. So you're not talking about a huge percentage of the market that are bad tenants or bad landlords, but parts of the new act that's coming in I think are very good. It's trying to, I suppose, push the rental industry in a more professional way, so there's a lot of documentation involved in terms of changing bits and pieces. You've got to serve notices to change rents, whereas before you could just have a conversation and a handshake. That doesn't work anymore, and I think that's a benefit, and I also think it will improve the quality of the private rented stock out there. naturally that's going to push rents up if landlords having to spend more money on their property to create nicer properties. That is going to push rents up, but tenants are going to get nicer quality of properties to live in. So I think a lot of it is a benefit. People are renting for longer. You're not just having your kind of 19, 20, 22 year olds who are kind of graduates saving till they've got a deposit and then buying because of where the prices are in the housing market. So you've got people renting well into their 30s. You don't want to live in student digs, do you, when you're in your 30s? So the stock has to improve, and this is kind of putting things in place to make sure it does. But tenants are going to have to realise they'll have to pay more money for that.
Is there any fear though that this will put landlords off from being in the business at all?
We have seen quite a lot of landlords sort of panicking a little bit and then sort of choosing to sell. But I do think as well that the more landlords that do sell is probably then going to push the rental prices up even further, which is another worry, really, I guess.
Yeah, it'll create more demand on the rental stock that's there. But yeah, the general landlords that we've seen selling are the ones that kind of bought these properties 20, 30 years ago, and it was always their plan. It was a pension plan effectively for them, and when they retired they'd always kind of cash in and sell and spend it. They've probably just brought that forward a few years really because of these changes coming in, and they don't want to get involved. But yeah, it's we've had a few landlords who are kind of and ahh'd about selling. So they've had a tenant give notice going, I'll stick it on the sales market, and then they'll come back to us a month later and go, actually, will you rent it out for me? So there's clearly a bit of confusion out there. Landlords are worried about the changes, but I think it's our job to advise them and to educate them, and also send them to read the literature that's out there. It's not in the mainstream media, like we've said. It's not really been front page news. But
why do you think that is? Is that because it's just not it's not a very interesting subject, and there's no angle from the media to kind of look at it from that side of it?
It's interesting. I think I don't know, to be frank, why it's not been out there. It's probably the biggest change to the rental industry, certainly in my lifetime.
Because as we're sitting here recording this now, we're only a week or so away from the legislation coming in, and I have to say that I don't know a great deal about this. I've rented properties in the past. I don't now, but I've been involved in that in the past, and I've heard very little about this. And I work in the media, so and I've just not heard much about it at all. I wonder why that is.
No, I don't know, but I don't know whether it's been actively kept out of the media, but there hasn't been that much information in mainstream media. But what I will say is that there is a lot of information out there. If you are a landlord or a tenant, I would go out and look for it and educate yourself. Speak to us as letting agents, speak to your agents if it's somebody else, and make sure you know what you're supposed to be doing, especially as a landlord. There are some quite heavy fines potentially in place for you just not educating yourself and not doing what you're supposed to be doing, a lot of which is quite straightforward stuff. But yeah, you need to get out there.
Are these the kind of things, I mean, I presume that this is why you as agents on this, that you can deal with that side of it. And I mean, I'm just interested in a little bit of background, I suppose, into the kind of people that you kind of represent in this. So do you have a lot of people who have big portfolios of property that you're managing on their behalf? Do you deal with just the one-off, the example you gave earlier about somebody who's gone abroad for a year or whatever and want to rent their property out? Is it a kind of a mixture of people that you represent?
Yeah, we do have quite a big variety. So we do have the big sort of portfolio landlords, and they'll sort of give us their properties to manage on their behalf. But then you also do have the landlords that just have sort of one or two and things like that. And then also we've got a lot of landlords where we don't manage their properties for them, we just rent them out for them in the first instance, and we try and sort of touch base with them as well as much as possible, really, with regards to the Renters' Rights Act.
Yeah, I think that side of it there, so we've got a fully managed service and a let only service. So your fully managed is where we do everything for them throughout the duration of the tenancy, but the let only is we effectively find them a tenant, get the contracts etc done for them and all that side of that front end compliance, I suppose you'd call it, and then once the keys are handed over, the landlords look after things themselves. And I think we're seeing a shift where some of those who have been doing it for 10-15 years themselves are coming to us and going, look, there's too much now, will you take over? we're worried about the changes, we don't know exactly what we're doing. But those ones that are carrying on, that they kind of need to make sure they're doing what they should be doing. I think that's the most important message to get out here. I mean, there's a piece of information, I suppose, that's come out in the last month. That's a 4-page document that has to be served to every single current sitting tenant that's on an assured short hold tenancy, because those are the ones that are going to change to the periodic tenancies. So every landlord has to serve that to their tenants. Now, I've had conversations in the last few days of landlords that have never heard of this and don't know that their obligations, and that's quite worrying. We're a week away.
That in itself is a really interesting point, isn't it? Is that with the portfolio of people that you represent, do you think that they're all aware of what needs to happen, or that some are kind of still in the dark with just a week or so to go?
I think there's plenty out there that still don't know the ins and outs of the changes and what they should be doing, and we've done our best. We speak to all our managed landlords regularly, and we've been sending information out to all landlords we have on our system, just to try and help the ones that we don't manage as well, that we've come across. Some of them we might not even have acted for at all, but we've come across them, we know they're landlords, and I feel like that's our responsibility in the industry, to just say, this information is important, please have a read of it, and then educate yourself further. But yeah, it's a difficult few months. Probably the next 12 months will be interesting, and one of the things I've been saying to a lot of people is there's going to be no precedence when we first enter this, because now you can fall back on, a judge ruled so and so against the Section 21, and it fell through in court because of this. So then you can go, okay, we need to make sure we do this, asking a tenant to leave. But that whole process is going to be new. So until some of the more complicated cases initially go through the courts, we're not going to know the ins and outs of them really. So it is, it's gonna be an interesting next 6 to 12 months, definitely in the letting industry.
Alex, you mentioned that there were some concerns about things connected with this and what landlords might have to do to improve their properties to make sure everything's okay, and that would have an impact on the costs, I suppose. Is it from your point of view as the agents in this, is this increasing the cost that you have to incur and have to pass on to your landlords?
Yeah, I mean, with all of the new sort of compliance and regulations, it is going to mean that we do have to do more work, and things are probably going to take a little bit longer. But yeah, in terms of pricing and things, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, from a compliance point of view, I suppose, from my side of things, I've tried to change the process within our department and some of the softwares we use, just to make sure a lot of the process is almost done for us. In terms of the compliance side of things, obviously that incurs extra costs at our end, which has to be pushed onto the landlord, and then eventually it will get pushed onto the tenants, because rents will go up as demand increases. The landlords having to spend more money, they're going to have to put their rents up, and if they don't, to be frank, landlords treat this as a business, whether they've got one or they've got 50. If they're not making money, they're going to sell their property and put their money somewhere else. So landlords have to make money. So if it's costing them more, it's going to have to cost the tenants more. And that's the honest truth of it, to be honest.
So I suppose linked to that, one of the final questions we should ask about it is whether the whole thing is a good thing or not. What's the view on that? On balance, I suppose. Yeah,
I think that there's some good stuff in there. I think with any big changes like this in any industry, I don't think you're going to get it right straight away. And you're also in a situation, again, when changes come down from above, that there's a lot of people that are involved in making these huge changes. They've never worked in this industry. Some of them might be landlords, some of them might have been tenants, but they've never worked in this industry for an extended period of time or been involved in it for an extended period of time. So they don't know enough, really, in my opinion, about how it works. So yeah, there's some good stuff in there. Giving tenants a bit more security, I think, is beneficial, to be frank, but landlords have got to be protected against bad tenants, and I think the eviction process has gone too far the other way, in my opinion. I think
offering too much protection for the tenants.
There's too much protection it's too tricky to get bad tenants out, or it will become too tricky. I mean, there's going to be a lot of stress on the court process, So that will obviously cause delays with getting tenants out. There needs to be some sort of middle ground where good tenants are looked after, but good landlords are looked after as well, and I don't think we've quite got there yet. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I think there's bits that need to come out of the act, and potentially some other bits to go in. But unless you start this sort of situation, it's always going to stay the same, and I think the process at the moment, or the industry at the moment, isn't quite right. So
was there much consultation on this before the legislation went through? Did you get the opportunity, for instance, as an agent, to be able to feed into the process?
Not personally, but there was. I mean, the government have told us that they did take industry advice. But I've spoken to a huge number of letting agents who have the same opinion as me, in that some of it's good, but some of it wasn't needed, or it's gone too far the other way. So fingers crossed, as we get further down the line, there might be more iterations to this. But I think the important thing is, and the thing I hope that will happen, is the government will use it as a bit more of a stepping stone to get to the right place. And I hope that they'll see what works and what doesn't, and we won't be, right, this is the Renters Act of 2026, the next changes are in 2054 or something like that. I hope there'll be different iterations come in over the next few years, and certain bits will be tweaked, but we won't know until we get there, I suppose.
Well, let's just wrap things up with just one final question, I suppose, which is one piece of advice that you would give to tenants, and one piece of advice that you would give to landlords linked to the changes that are coming up.
I'll do the landlord. My best piece of advice is to read as much as you can and speak to industry professionals. I think give us a ring, ask us questions. If you're unsure about how to move forward, look at your management options. Use a letting agent that knows what they're doing. But yeah, just get hold of as much information as possible, and make sure you're compliant, make sure you're serving the right certificates, the right notices. I think,
and tenants?
know your rights, I think I would say. Yeah. From a tenant's point of view, I think it's important that you know where you stand. Because there are landlords out there that aren't brilliant. You see them in the media, and that's kind of why we've ended up where we are. So there will still be landlords out there who, either on purpose or through not educating themselves, will be doing the incorrect thing. And I think it's important that tenants read the information sheet that's come out to all tenants. It's a 4-page document. It's not huge, but it's got the main crux of the information that you need. So know where you stand, know what your notice periods are, because your notice periods are changing for you as well if you want to leave. So yeah, just know where you stand and know your rights.
It's an interesting topic, that's for sure, and no doubt it'll all come out in the wash in the course of the next few months, won't it? Yeah. But Alex, Iain, thank you so much for all that useful advice, and let's see what happens, eh?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks, guys.